Welcome to the 5 for 2 podcast with me, your host Adele, where we say no to careers where you're trading 5 days of misery for 2 days of fun. A place we discuss all things career, confidence, and money moves. I want to motivate, teach, and empower ambitious women to achieve more, earn more, feel more confident, and enjoy the work they do. It's all about believing you can have everything you want in your career and then going and getting it. So if you're ready, let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode. I'm going to keep this one as brief as possible, but annual pay rises are around the corner. So I want to talk about that 3 to 5% performance review that is often called, that people get around this time every year, just before April. Firstly, I want to say we do not reject any type of pay rises, even the little crappy 3 to 5%. A pay rise is a pay rise, yeah? So you're always aiming for that 5%. However, I want to be really clear. That 3 to 5%, you are always going to get it, whether it's 3% or 5%. Now, I'm not saying that there might be years where your company's made no money and contractually they don't have to give it to you. However, I want you to consider the time of year that this pay rise happens. If you are in the UK, you know that national minimum wage goes up in April every year without fail. That is the national minimum wage, the legal amount that people are allowed to be paid when you're 18, 21 and over 23. Or is it 25? Anyway, listen, the legal amount, the legal minimums, we are all allowed to be paid. Now, just to be clear, it is not a coincidence that your performance review is around this time. And when I make my next statement, I want you guys to remember this is why I advocate and tell you to ask for pay rises at any point in the year, at any time that you feel it's appropriate, because your work doesn't get better once a year. So you don't need to wait for the company to tell you when you can get more money. And here's the statement that I'm going to make. That 3 to 5% pay rise is not based on performance. It tracks the national minimum wage. And why am I saying that? Because if it didn't track minimum wage and there was no 3 to 5% yearly, or at least every couple of years, and you just left everyone's salary alone, guess what? All the people that are on minimum wage are always going to get a pay rise by law, because once they're no longer on minimum wage, you have to up their salary so that it meets minimum wage criteria. That would be the erosion of all higher salaries, because eventually everyone would be on the same salary, whether you're experienced, whether you're really good at your job, whether you've been at the company 10 years, 5 years, 4 years. Because if we're not moving people's salary up, so for instance, I've been at the company for 10 years. They keep me on the same salary, but the person who's just joined has to join on minimum wage. Now, minimum wage has been going up every year and is getting closer and closer to my salary. If they don't move my salary up, I'm basically going to be a highly skilled, experienced worker on minimum wage. Do you see? If I start £20 an hour and minimum wage is currently £15, I'm just making this up, guys. I know that that's not what minimum wage is. Please, we know what it is in the UK. Anyway, if I started on £20 an hour and minimum wage is £15, every year, let's say they add like £152. In about 3 years, that person is going to be on the same salary as me. So if my company didn't give me the performance review, if you can see my hands right now, you would know that I'm doing air quotes. So if they didn't give me that performance review, I would eventually, in 3 years, I'd just be on minimum wage. But I would be like an expert in my field. I'm great at my job. I'm doing really well. I'm delivering results, but I'm beyond the same salary as someone on entry level, someone who's new to the company, new to the industry, who's never ever done the job. So I just want you guys to think about that. When you're going into that performance review, keep that in the back of your mind. When you go into that performance review, remind yourself of all the results and all the things you've done for your company in the last year and why you deserve that money. Have things written down. Don't go in there just, willy-nilly. Don't necessarily accept when they say 3%. Ask why. And it's not about being combative. It's not about being like the challenging person. It's like an open conversation. Oh, I was just wondering what made me be at the 3% rather than the 5%. Because again, just because I do not believe that 3 to 5% is really performance review doesn't mean that you shouldn't still want it. Like, I would accept the 3 to 5% pay review. And if later in the year I feel like I should be on more, I will ask. Because if you are a top performer, if you are a high earner, as in you bring in a lot of money to your company, you bring in new customers, you create marketing campaigns that are making your company known around the country, around the world, and creating lots of demand, which in turn is helping sell their products and make a lot of profit, then you deserve more than the 3 to 5%. And also, again, the 3 to 5% is just tracking minimum wage. If they didn't put your salary up, eventually you would be on minimum wage. How are they going to keep top performers, people that excel, people that are amazing at their job and amazing at bringing in profit? How would you keep them if they're just on minimum wage? I can just go and work anywhere if I'm just going to be on minimum wage. So to keep talent, you're going to have to keep moving their salary, even in small increments. Because let's be real, that 3 to 5%, a lot of that's getting eaten up by the tax man. We're not going to pretend that in the UK, the tax isn't crazy. So a lot of that is getting eaten up in tax. And I don't know how it works in the US. I will have to speak to some of my US clients. But I would assume that even if it's not tracking your national minimum wage, because every state in America is different, I would assume it's tracking inflation, the economy, because if we're going to work every day and we can't afford the essentials, why would we need to go to work? It doesn't make sense. Then we might as well be on help. Like in the UK, benefits, we might be on benefits. In the US, like there's things for people on low income that they can access some sort of money, some sort of assistance. So they might be on assistance. Because why are we going to work if we can't afford day-to-day living? And I know that people are listening to this now and are saying, Adele, we currently go to work and we can't afford day-to-day living. I know, exactly. That's the point. So that is why they need to do this 3 to 5% every year, to make it feel like we're getting some movement, to make you feel like you're earning a bit more and you can afford your life in this insane economy. When the truth is, everything goes up in April. Again, if you're in the UK, what month does your council tax go up? When is your TV license due? Just think about all these things. They're not coincidences. They all happen around this time. When do our gas and energy prices go up? April. When does your salary review happen? End of March. Ready for April. These things are not coincidences. I am someone who looks for patterns. I have worked in HR long enough. I've worked in recruitment long enough. I've just been in employment, careers, all that area, all that sector for so many years that I see so many patterns that other people may miss. Because when you're looking at things from a HR lens, you pay attention differently. So that's why I'm here to help you guys out. So the next time you say to yourself, oh, I'm just going to wait for my annual pay rise, even though you know you deserve more money, I want you to think about the fact that pay rise is just tracking minimum wage and will eventually happen regardless, because they cannot let your salary get too close to minimum wage. If you are an expert in your field, if you have been there a really long time, if you are a high performer, they just can't let that happen. Because how can someone with 10 years experience who's delivering KPIs and targets be on the same salary as someone who's just walked into the industry on an entry-level role? There would be chaos. Everything would fall apart. So I just want you to think about, is that pay rise really a pay rise? Or is it just something they need to give you to ensure that you're not on an entry level salary? Because I'm going to be real. If I found out that my salary was basically entry level, I would step down and do entry level rock, because why am I getting paid entry level money for senior level responsibilities? Absolutely not. If you're going to pay me entry level, I want to do entry level work, easy life. Because I promise you, I would choose a lower title for the same salary than a higher title. That is, to me, I know some people love having the big title. I could care less. You guys know when I left childcare and got into human resources, actually got into recruitment first, I made more money in the first 12 months. And my title was a huge drop. I went from being a manager to a trainee to then just being a consultant, yet made more money as a consultant than I did as a manager of a whole establishment. I did not care about the title drop. I care about the numbers in my bank account, because it's the numbers in my bank account that feeds my family, that helps me travel, that helps me to have enjoyment. This past weekend, I was just away in the UK with my girls in a lovely hotel, enjoying good food, relaxing, chilling, as much relaxing as you can do with a baby, because mums, you already know, a 9-month-old is not letting you relax, especially one that's on the move. I'm just running after her all day. However, I never had to cook. I got some nice time. And that was simply because I have an account called Just Because. I was fed up of being at home and cooking and cleaning and doing all the things. And I was like, listen, we're tapping into the Just Because account so that I can go and do something different and get a little bit of luxury and go and get a massage. I actually was able to get a massage. Oh my gosh, a spa weekend. Lovely. But that only happens when you're negotiating higher salaries. That only happens when you're not sitting around waiting for the 3 to 5% pay rise that's literally just tracking minimum wage. They're giving you the bare minimum to keep you holding on. If your work isn't a bare minimum work that you're delivering, then stop accepting the crumbs and start asking for the higher money that matches your high performance. Like I said, I was going to keep this as brief as possible. Anyone who's got any questions about this or wants to carry on the discussion with me, either join my Substack, free to join, subscribe. I've got a chat going on there. People ask me questions about their careers. Listen, it's a little bit dry right now because no one's talking to me. However, I will say 2 people started talking to me and that's been really fun. So if any more of you want to just chat to me, ask me questions about career, talk to me about any of my podcast episodes, share things that you would love me to talk about on the podcast, come over to Adele Thompson's Substack. Join me, let's talk. If you are looking to be coached, you want help negotiating more money, you want to get paid more in your current job or in a new role, in a new industry, reach out, book a consultation call. You guys know I love helping people get more money. And we always aim for 5 figures, the 10, the 20, the 30, the 40, the 50, even the 60K pay rises. I've helped people double and triple their income. I haven't even tripled my own income, but I've helped other people do it. So yeah, reach out. And as always, if you love a masterclass, why not head over to Project Paid? That has helped people really increase their salary. Like on last count, someone said to me, they watched that, they implemented the things I spoke about, and they were able to get a 28K pay rise. Things are still moving in this economy. Things are still moving in this job market. They might be moving slower, but people are still getting pay rises. People are still changing industries. People are still upgrading their jobs and getting paid more to do less, because we already know that's always the flex. So don't be impressed by this 3 to 5% pay rise. I'm not saying you don't accept it and take it and do the best you can to get the 5%. I'm not saying you don't do that. What I'm saying is don't be overly impressed by something that is just simply tracking minimum wage so that we don't all end up on the same salary. I'll speak to you guys in the next episode, and I hope everyone gets 5% pay rise. I hope this episode gave you exactly what you needed and motivated you to confidently take steps towards your next career move. If you enjoyed it, screenshot and share it on your socials, tag me on Instagram, and come join my community of amazing women working on leveling up their confidence and career. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.